Hi, I'm DJ Ware. On this episode of the Cyber Gizmo, we're going to be looking at Fedora Workstation 34 right after this. So I wanted to cover this, the actual release date for Fedora 34 Workstation and server and all the other spins and all that stuff. That's not really scheduled until April the 20th. So got a little bit of a wait for that, but they just completed their test period for people to go in and then publicly test and kind of kick the tires and make sure that things are working the way they should be. But I wanted to talk a little bit about Fedora 34. This is a very significant release. And as you'll find out as we go through it. So I guess the first thing is that, to talk about Fedora has been around a while. 2003 is when it first appeared in its initial form. And of course, we had just had the test release. The current released version is still Fedora 33. So yeah, if you're looking for the current most released version, it'll be 33. So 34 is, of course, on its way. So the direction, I guess, is the thing we should talk about first with Fedora. I mean, there's been so much talk about what's going to happen with Fedora and is it going to go the way of CentOS and all this stuff. But so Fedora is the development platform for RedHat and for CentOS streams. So the direction for Fedora is to try out new ideas in that platform, as well as provide a competent platform for both developers and people that are interested in using Linux on a day-to-day basis. I mean, that's its purpose. And they offer a number of things, a number of tools in there to help you do that. So let's talk a little bit about what some of the direction is from this point forward with Fedora as to where it's going. So the first thing was Wayland. Wayland in the past did not support NVIDIA 3D acceleration. And so that was a big problem, and that was lacking until now. So in Fedora 34, they have the development team from both GNOME and Wayland and Fedora are working with NVIDIA to create a set of drivers that will function within Wayland and provide 3D acceleration, and so that's been done. The second part of Wayland that's important that needs to be done is there are a number of people that use Fedora as the basis for a VNC or an RDP-based server, so they'll install the desktop version of Fedora on there on a server in the cloud someplace, and then they want to be able to bring that graphical environment up remotely using either RDP or VNC to do that. So that really means that Wayland has to function in kind of a headless mode, and then open up that graphical user interface when RDP or VNC is attached to it. The third thing is PipeWire. So PipeWire has been used in the previous versions of Fedora in order to do the video streaming within the OS and the distribution. So they wanted to expand it. They, being the developers of Fedora, wanted to expand it to include audio as well. That's been the plan all along. That's not news. I have read them saying that they were going to do this for at least the last 3 years. So it's currently in use for video, as I said, but they want to be able to use it for audio, and that support is now in Fedora 34. Toolbox first appeared, I think, in Fedora Silverblue, and Toolbox is Fedora's tool for making pet containers for developers. And so if you remember on Silverblue, that was kind of the way they were trying to get people to install their development environments so that they were separate and protected away from the operating system itself, and so that Silverblue could go on and be, more of a lockdown environment and immutable. But Toolbox also runs on the native workstation and also their server. So what they want to be able to do here is to allow those containers to be more robust. Toolbox now used to only, I think it had a handful of development environments, and of course they were all wrapped around Fedora. But now you can set up RHEL containers in that Toolbox, and so, but you will need to go and register on developer.redhat.com so that you can get a entitlement. It's a free entitlement that you can then use to do your development. So the idea here is this provides you with kind of best of both worlds. One, you can still use Fedora on your day-to-day environment without polluting it to be able to develop for Red Hat. And you can create a toolbox with Red Hat's full operating system environment under it and running, so that if you're doing development, you can do development against the operating system that you're going to deploy on. So that's a good thing. Also, Flatpak. The direction for Flatpak, and again, this is nothing new. The intention is to make Flatpaks the primary packaging format for the Fedora and RHEL platforms. So now maybe it might be new for RHEL, although RHEL has been supporting Flatpaks for some time now. But they are really trying to do a couple of things. One is in the Fedora implementation of Flatpaks, they use the full OCI model, and those Flatpaks are large. The other problem with those Flatpaks is that when you do upgrades or when you want to install updates to that particular Flatpak, it's not a Delta, it is a complete download again to overwrite the Flatpak that you had installed previously, and that takes a lot of time. I mean, that could be you know several billion bytes before it comes down. So what they were trying to do here is to reduce the size of it, and the team went away and they worked on this. They want to keep the OCI model because that's more clean and it allows them to do things like Kubernetes and support for those kinds of container-based initiatives that are available outside of Flatpak, and so they want to maintain that. But at the same time, they want to be able to do updates without having to push the entire container back down to you again. So they went away and they worked on a Delta updating mechanism for the OCI side of Flatpaks, and that is now part of Fedora 34 as well. The one of the other directions is on input. So the Fedora team saw that in 2021, I mean, I saw a lot of these in 2022, that a lot of the laptops are coming with touchpads and touch screens, and they're more haptic in their environments. And so GNOME and Fedora really didn't do a very good job of supporting that. In fact, very few Linux distributions do a very good job in supporting that out of the box, that is. So what they wanted to be able to do was to enable those features and to make sure that they were available in both GNOME and also on the desktops that they would be operating under. And so they wanted to get the Fedora side of things ready so that it would be able to directly integrate with these new laptops that are coming. I think what they see as kind of a trend is they believe that will be the dominant form of laptop. Now, I don't know if that'll be this year or next year or the year after, but they think that will be the way laptops are being built going forward, that will have that support. And so they wanted to have the operating system and the graphical user interface both together working to support that environment. So finally, the Lenovo Fedora is now available on the X1 Carbon, and also it was previously released on the Lenovo P1. I think there's 2 other models they're working on, but they haven't announced yet what those are. So I don't know what those will be, but I do know it is available on the X1 Carbon and the Lenovo P1, which is really good. That's a definitely a healthy step in the right direction to get Linux in the mainstream, at least as a choice. Now, whether or not the market will accept it, that's a different thing, right? So, but at least they're getting the first hurdle, and I know Ubuntu has done the same thing with their distributions. So That's good. That is a good step in all directions for all the distros. That to see that this kind of thing is being done. So I think probably the first place to start is to kind of talk about what is Fedora 34 and what some of the changes really are. I talked a little bit about the direction, but that doesn't really tell you much about what you can expect to see. So the first thing is GNOME 40. Fedora 34 is implementing the full version of GNOME 40. I know that Ubuntu looked at this, and I think they felt that because of the amount of integration that they had with the older versions of GNOME, that it would take significantly longer than a 6-month development cycle would accommodate them to get done. So not faulting them, it's just that, that they are, Ubuntu is a little bit more advanced on how they do, how they use GNOME, and Fedora is more vanilla. So yeah, and so it probably takes Fedora a lot less time to integrate GNOME than it would Ubuntu. So hopefully Ubuntu will come out with support for GNOME 40 soon, maybe in the next cycle, maybe in the fall. Who knows? But we'll find out. So the GNOME 40 is really the first major change to GNOME since 2011. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of looked the same stale way for quite some time, and there have been a number of complaints and criticisms about GNOME over the years, and they're trying to remove some of those limitations with GNOME 40, and one of them is the blank boot state. So yeah, you don't have an operating environment until you get up into the login. So they're trying to fix that. There's also lack of touchpad gestures, which we talked about earlier on the direction, to be able to support haptic trackpads on laptops. There's a subpar application browsing experience. I mean, it's kind of, here it is, here's the icons, and you can kind of figure out maybe what they are, but it's clumsy. You got to, swipe and scroll and go through it and try to find the application you're looking for. Now, they have improved that somewhat by allowing you to categorize the icons into groups, which is good, but and also you can also change the layout, change the order of the applications on the screen, but they really wanted it better. And the other problem was that workspace was kind of left out in left field. I mean, it didn't feel like it was part of GNOME. It just kind of felt like, oh, well, it's over here on the desktop, and if I want it, I have to go click on something else to get it. So now the activities overview, which is the place you would normally go if you were to hit your Linux key or your Windows key on your machine, what would pop up. And so now, and we'll look at that in the demo, but now you actually have a view you actually have a dash that appears on the lower part of the screen, not the sidebar, but on the bottom of the screen, as well as you also have the display of your workspaces there as well. So, and then you can go into an icon view that you're familiar with and then move stuff around however you see fit. But we'll look at that more later. So some of the things that have been updated, the bind utils, I kind of followed their list, but so it kind of isn't really organized very well. So it's kind of I think more of a generic dump of all the changes that have gone. I did not include all of them. If you want more, go out to the Fedora docs site or the Fedora wiki and go and see all of the changes that have been made. But ButterFS, the transparent ZSTD compression is on by default, and that is a very good compression algorithm that was introduced some time ago, actually, but is now being included in the compression algorithms for file systems like ZFS and ButterFS now. One of the changes is it routes all audio to PipeWire. And I know that they weren't too sure about that one, because anytime you go in and start ripping out major components like audio, you could run yourself into trouble. So what the Fedora team did was they worked with as many of the pro audio developers as they possibly could to get them involved early and get them on board with the PipeWire team so that they were working together to make sure that all of these applications that require like your digital audio workstation or your plugins and all of the pathings like you would have found, in jacks and all that stuff, still have the functionality that they need in order for this to still work, because you want your audio to route correctly. And PipeWire is a pretty significant change to the way things work, and so they feel like it is ready for a release. And so, I guess we'll find out, won't we, in April, how well that's going to work. But they also enable systemd OOMD, which is the out-of-memory daemon by default. So before it was only enabled on certain services, and now it's enabled for all of them. So Boost 175 upgrade is now available, and that, of course, allows Fedora to take advantage of features which are available in the latest and greatest versions of Boost. So the GNU toolchain is, it's gone to version 11 for the GCC compiler and version 2.33 for the glibc. Golang is version 1.16 and Ruby is version 3. There's also something called the Rust crate packages, and I think those were only available before on the Rawhide branch. Those have been brought under all the branches of Fedora now, so that if you want to create Rust crate packages, you can do that. And so you don't have to be running the Rawhide branch to be able to do those anymore. LLVM 12 also provides the latest support and bug fixes for Fedora. SE Linux, this is one of the big changes that have occurred in Fedora 34. In previous releases of Fedora, you could go in and you could set SE Linux equal disabled. And that would then remove SE Linux from installing at the runtime. The issue is now they have implemented the kernel LSM hooks, which are read-only, which is a good thing. From a security standpoint, that's a very good thing. You want to do that. But the problem with doing it that way is you can't do the SE Linux equal disabled anymore, because the component it relies on, the LSM hooks, are read-only, and so it doesn't work anymore. So, that prevents that from working. So hopefully that makes some sense. But I think you can still modify the SE Linux, but it's probably something to test to make sure that you can put it into a degraded mode. But disabled, you can't do it anymore. Which probably is also a good thing. You shouldn't probably be running SE Linux disabled anyway. But the other one is there's now a restart of services at the end of an RPM transaction. So before, we used to have to do this dance of, okay, what changed? Is the service in the library still loaded from the old version, and do I need to restart those services? So and so now it just automatically does it. You don't have to worry about it. I think that's a good idea. They also are now providing Wayland support in KDE Plasma Desktop. So if you want to take advantage of that, you can. Also, i3 has now been added as an official spin to Fedora. And I believe this is the first time in Fedora a window manager has ever had an official spin. So that's kind of interesting. The Stratus file system, I did a video on that a while back. It's now at version 2.3. And that has a number of updates in it, particularly with compression. And there's some other things that it has, like you can now see the devices in your dev directory. So they're definitely enhancing Stratus, and that's good to see. I'm very interested to see how much they've actually done with Stratus and how well it will actually perform. Of course, it's not ready for a production system just yet. I mean, that takes a little bit of time to get a file system all the way through all that before people will go, I'll trust that in a production environment. So, but it's good to see that they are continuing to work on it. And that latest release is now available to us. I think Stratus might be at 3.4 right now, but it's not very far behind. XFCE is at version 4.16. MariaDB is at 10.5, and PostgreSQL is at version 13. So if you're interested in using Fedora for a database server, that you might want to take a look at those. So I guess the next step here would be to actually, let's go do a demo and kick the tires on it, do an install, take a look at some of the features, and then come back and we'll talk about some final thoughts. So I'll be right back. So I've got Proxmox up here again. That's where I'm going to install it. Yeah, my hardware is still in use. Probably will be for a while. I'm still going through some testing on ZFS. I have the old version up on my production server and the new version up on my test server, and I'm still kind of testing back and forth. I want to run for a while on it before I cut over to the new version. There's been a couple of bug fixes, so I'm not rushing that. So anyway, let's go create a VM. And we'll just call this Fed34. And we'll put it on my NAS drive for the installation CD, which is, I'm going to be using that now. There's a number of installation CDs that you can choose from now. So if you want just the workstation by itself, you can do that. This one is a net install and it has everything. So you can install the spins, you can install the server, you can install the workstation, whatever you like. So that's what I'm gonna be using. It's a much lighter download, but of course then it downloads more stuff when you start to install it. But that's okay. I guess since we're over here, we'll do Spice for this one, and I do want to put this on. I think I want to put this on local. 32 is probably enough. We'll do our usual 4 CPUs, and it will not use this. No, it won't use anywhere near that much memory, but who knows what I'll do with it in testing. I'll probably run this for a while before I punt the older version of, I'm still using 32 on the other machines, so I will probably punt that one to 34 if it passes my test. So, and I don't know why it shouldn't. Okay, we're all built, and so let's go ahead and start that. And then we'll run the console. Yep. There we go. Yeah, I don't think we need to do a full check on that since I've been through that once already. We'll just wait for it to boot up here. Yeah, pre-release testing. Use at your own risk. It probably will warn you. Yeah, I think it warns you when you, yeah, there you go. This is unstable. Yeah, I know. I'm not running it in production, just chill. I would never do that. Okay, so we've got some things we need to get set up here. So keyboard's good, language support's good, that's fine. We'll need to select, make sure it's got my drive. And we'll do that, and we'll wait for it to check it. Looks good. That's connected. Now, this is where you can pick and choose what you want. So you can do a server edition, a minimal install, workstation. You got all these choices here, you know, and there's your i3 down there for one of your spins. So I kind of like this because it's kind of all in one place to go. And then over on this side, you have choices as to what other tools you might want for this particular environment. Of course, this will change depending upon, you know, what type of base operating system you're going to install. So yeah, I don't think I need anything else other than I'll probably install the I'll probably make sure that I have the SSH environment set up. I know it installs it, but we'll make sure it's set up. And then we'll go ahead and create a root account. And then we'll create my user. Make it administrator. Okay. And then we'll begin the install. This will take a while. I'll let's see. It is looks like 10 after 8. So I'll go ahead and pause it here, and then I'll come back when we're done and tell you how long it took. So let's see. Looks like it took about 14 minutes, I guess, to do this one completely. But, you know, the speed is going to be dependent upon your network speed since you're downloading all the packages that you're going to install. So, okay, let's go ahead and reboot this. And before, when I did this, it's okay now. But the last time I did this, it just didn't want to come down. But so you may run into that. Or just kind of stalled on the way down. But okay. So let's see. So that's in. That is definitely going to be using It's not going to be using Xorg, I should say. All right, let's go ahead and sign in. Hopefully, there we go. And immediately it will take you to this tour. We kind of make that a little bit bigger, and then we'll fix the screen resolution in a minute. So let's just kind of step through it. So it talks a little bit about. Here's your overview. You see the open apps, and you can see you're using a finger. You can arrange the app grid. Now they have an app grid now where you can reposition the apps anywhere along that grid. So it isn't just like it was before, like it was just a vertical and horizontal table. And then your workspaces come up and down. So you now have 3-finger on your touchpad, and the same for left and right on your workspaces. And there's a lot more, but of course that's all they're going to show. The new wallpaper is here. So if I had gone here, it would have dropped down this menu right on the older version. So we've got some updates. We'll take care of those in a minute. So this time it comes up. This is your 2 workspaces. That's all I have defined and by default. And then you have this dash down here. There's your software, your files, your calendar, and Firefox. And then you can show your applications. But it still continues to show, you can still flip back and forth between your workspaces. So I guess the first thing I want to do is get up a terminal window. Well, actually, the first thing I want to do is get my display set correctly. Let's do that. So let's put it in that. And then we'll keep that, and then we'll go to full screen on it. That looks pretty good. And then we'll go do my usual stuff. Let me get this a little bigger so you can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to just do now I could just do the update from, I could just do it from here. Oops, that's not me. Old habits, huh? Drop to the bottom, expect the menu to pop up, and it doesn't. So let's see. Software store is what I want. There's my update showing right there. Guess we better do that. Guess we better do that. We'll wait for that to take place. Okay, let's go ahead and get these updated. And I'll be back. This will probably take a minute too. And it's going to go through the normal Fedora process of actually installing the updates on a reboot. This is not my favorite thing that they have added. The trend is the opposite way, where you can install updates without having to restart the machine, but the Fedora devs just don't seem to get that. But it didn't take too long. It's a little sluggish. Now, well, this is interesting because the last time I did this, it didn't work too well. Okay, good. That's good. Let's go and look at some of the things for audio. Let's go see if we can find something. I know one of the things they have added is with because they're adding PipeWire, they have updated a lot of the Bluetooth codecs for audio, and that's good. So they're all up to date. Let's see, sound somewhere, maybe. Right there. Let's just take a look and see what this looks like now. It looks very familiar. I don't have any devices on this machine that I'm passing through, but I could do that. Yeah. Doesn't look too different there. Let's see. Take a look at the about, see what we get there. Yeah, like I said, it's a little sluggish. Now, I don't notice this being so sluggish if I'm not using the remote viewer. If I'm just using the standard Proxmox, it doesn't seem to be this bad. But for some reason, I need to go do some investigation and find out why it is doing this. But yeah, it's telling me it's on Wayland, it's on GNOME 40. And I have a total of 3.8 gig. I guess the first thing we should probably go do before we get too carried away. Let's see what we got. Do we have HTOP? Probably not. Nope. And we'll probably have to put this out. And we'll probably have to put this out. And we'll probably have to put this out. Now, normally I would have to add the third-party repos for these, but I noticed when I was working on this earlier, I didn't. It actually found them. So, does that mean that they have moved this into the mainline repositories? Maybe. All right, let's take a look. HTOP. Now it's showing a gig. Now if I reboot, that probably will come down. Earlier when I first did this, I was down around 800 megabyte. So yeah, it's right at a gig. But I've been running this for a while. So let's do this. Let's reboot it. See what we get. Do a fresh boot and see what we get. Although the update should have cleared that out, but okay, we'll see what we get. 803 meg, yeah. So yeah, it'll quickly escalate up because there's other packages that are going to be running in the background. So the other thing I want to take a look at, hang on just a second. That's good to know. It doesn't expose my public IP address. that's a good thing. So looks like 1.21 with the app caches turned on, being measured. So yeah, I mean, so what? I mean, it's not much. To me, a gig of memory is not much in this day and age, not considering Apple is taking over 8 gig, Windows over 4. So yeah, I guess that's not bad. Let's take, I'm going to go ahead and bring down Linus, and then we'll see what it does. Got a few recommends I'm seeing going by, but now I haven't done anything other than install a few packages as you saw. So there's a warning. Yeah, that's version 303. Okay, that's the first time I've run this one. 68 is where it's going to start out at. Let's see if we had any majors. I thought I saw some red. Yep, IP tables is loaded, but no rules. That will definitely knock it down. That's normal. All of this is to disable the driver. Yeah, the FireWire drivers, yep. Disable that. Cups really needs, Cups needs to just be uninstalled personally, but I try to restrict that to its own server, and then it's just making recommendations on a number of tools to hard. So nothing earth-shattering here. That's pretty much what I always get. Let's take a look since we're looking through this. Let's see. Let's add a couple of things to the favorites. Okay, good. Did that. And let's see. I'll probably put this one out here too. And of course that one, since I'm always in there. I noticed that I heard somebody the other day say that you should never go to the terminal window in Linux. Wow, really? There's people out here that think that? I mean, if you're not using the terminal window, you're probably missing about half of the features of what Linux can do. So that's what I'm going to say. That's my answer to that. That is that's like well, why don't you play baseball without a glove and a bat? Just use your hands. Let's go see what version this is. Let's see, 7.1. That's pretty new, but then, yeah, you always expect Fedora to be up on the top of it. So I'm seeing a little bit of sluggishness. That's probably because this is beta, and it's probably not the code. The code is probably not completely optimized yet. So yeah, I'm not going to judge. I'm not going to be judgmental until they release it. But yeah, I mean, from what I can see, let me just go back over here. So yeah, from what I can see of it, it looks pretty good to me. I mean, I think I will probably play around with this on my virtual machine for a while. I don't like to run beta software or test software in this case, but which could be a release candidate. Maybe it could be a release candidate, but I don't see it labeled as that. It actually does say beta. So I don't like to run beta software and try to do production things with it, and I don't recommend that you do either. but I thought that, it's this release is so significant, it's so different than any of the other Fedora releases that I think it really bears a little bit more of a wider look. So I will probably come back to this. I know I will come back to this after the release date, and we'll maybe do a comparison between what it looked like on the beta and then what it looks like on the final. So yeah. Anyway, that's all I had for today. I hope you enjoyed this early look at Fedora Workstation 34. Hope to see you again real soon. Sorry I missed you last week. Yeah, I was having some health issues. So anyway, I'm on the mend, and I'm back. So hope to see you again real soon, and bye for now.